Hi everyone. Okay, so it's taken me a minute because I've been so busy and have a lot going on, but I really wanted to show you this cycle. So based on our guas, this cycle correlates to everything with each other, with other elements, and this is kind of how they control us per se, how they correlate and affect. Let's start with really quick with fire. So before I do that, you see this outer circle? This is the productive cycle. This inner circle, this is the weakening cycle. And then this star in the middle, this is our controlling cycle. Okay? So when we do this, I need everybody to think pictorially, okay? So think as pictures, like actual like physical pictures and see things for that. A lot of people will be like, I don't understand, I don't get it. Just bear with me. There is a method to the madness, okay? All right, so if you're a Gual 9, a fire, right? We're gonna do this productive cycle first. You produce earth. So when fire burns something, it creates ash, and ash creates dirt. And so earth is Guas 2, 5, and 8. And now Gua 2 represents the southwest. Gua 5 represent the center of a home. Gua 8 represents the northeast. So that's earth. So fire produces earth. Remember, burn, ashes, dirt. Now, earth produces metal. Why does earth produce metal? Because there are minerals in dirt, and minerals are metal components. So it creates stones and different things like that. So earth produces metal. Metals are Gua 6 and Gua 7s, which is 6 is the northwest and 7s are the west. Metal produces water. When there's condensation, metal will sweat and release moisture, which creates water. Water is a Gua 1, which is the north. Water produces wood. What happens when you water a tree or a plant? It grows, you produce it. Okay? So woods are Guas 3 and Guas 4. So 3 is east, 4 is southeast. Wood produces fire. What happens when you throw a log in the fire? It makes it bigger. It produces fire. All right, so that's the productive cycle. Let's say you're a Gua 9, you're a fire, and you have an employee that's a wood. That's fantastic. You have an employee that produces you, that is working for you, is making you bigger. This is just like a little tidbit on, you can see how the cycles work, are destructive cycles. So remember that employee I said that produces you? You might weaken them, like maybe by being a tyrant or a little overbearing or too controlling, but you may weaken them as your employee. Like they might leave at the end of the day like, I am exhausted, but that's not bad, you know. But this is the weakening cycle. Fire obviously burns wood, and so wood can over absorb water in a pond and dry out the pond. Water oxidizes metal and makes it rust. Metal absorbs the minerals from the earth and depletes its potency to grow plants and stuff. And so earth, if you ever had a fire and you've kicked dirt into a campfire, earth can shut off a fire. So you see how I say look at things pictorially? So now we're going to go to the controlling cycle. So the controlling cycle is a little stronger than the weakening cycle because these are elements that kind of don't do well with one another. Okay, so let's think about fire again. So fire, what does fire do to metal? Fire can melt metal. It weakens it to the point where you can manipulate it and do whatever you want. Think about people that are iron workers. They can take a big chunk of metal, put it in those cast iron things with fire, and when they pull it out, it's like it's burning hot, and they can shape and manipulate it any way they want. So fire kind of can control metal. Metal, think about an axe, can cut wood. What does an axe do to a tree? It cuts it. Wood controls earth. Have you ever seen those big trees that the roots break the earth? Like they break the dirt and they just like, they come out of the dirt. Wood controls earth because it breaks the earth. Earth controls water. People have covered ponds and covered pools and stuff. And how do you do that? By throwing dirt in and just eliminating the body of water, because dirt can absorb all of that water. And so now water obviously can turn off a fire. I'm going to give you a great example. I'm an earth, right? My oldest daughter is a water. I can't talk to her. I can't tell her things to do. So what my husband and I learned was that when I needed to tell her something, like to clean her room or she needed to go do something, I used to tell my husband. My husband is a wood. If I would tell her something, it would seem like I was controlling or I was trying to boss her around. But if my husband told her, if it was almost like he was caring and like, had her best interest at heart, nothing as serious as me controlling her. With that said, it was the same with my son. My son is an earth like me. So me and him are like two peas in a pod. We understand each other. But my husband and my son is like, my son takes everything as like he's overbearing and he's always yelling at me and he's always telling me what to do. So it's funny how we learned who kind of disciplines or tells who to do what, because in our home it was like a constant battle. And so this little cycle helped us to see, okay, well, you can be more of the disciplinary to her and I'll be more of the disciplinary to him, and that way everybody got what they wanted in a way that didn't seem or come off as controlling. So think about it. Let's say you are a fire and you have two bosses, right? And you want to ask for some days off or vacation or a raise. Who are you going to ask? Are you going to ask your metal boss or are you going to ask your water boss? Obviously, you're a metal boss because you kind of can dominate here, and do whatever you want, pretty much, kind of get your way. Whereas here, this one's going to shut you down real quick, be like, no, we don't have time for that right now. I'm going to give you another great example. I worked with a few girls in an office, and I wanted to see who was what. And so I asked everybody their birthdays. I figured it out. The girl, the MA that worked right next to me, she was a wood. And then my two frontline girls were metal. They always had my patients ready to go. Like, we communicated good. Like, we were always like, go, 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 go. But them with her, she always was like, they're so bossy. They're always telling me what to do. And it was always like a constant conflict. And I think it's funny because it was exactly like, exactly like you see it here. So I produced them. They produced for me. They kind of wore me out a little bit sometimes because they overproduced, but it worked. But with her was always an issue. And then, like I said, she's my partner MA. And so she was a wood and I'm an earth. And every time she was like, I want to take a day off. Can you cover for me? I'd be like, yes, I'll cover for you. And anytime she asked me, can you do my patient? Yes, I'll do your patient. And it was always like, and I couldn't understand why, because usually I'm like, no. And I just couldn't with her. I didn't understand why. And so when I did this at work, I was like, oh my God, she's been totally playing me this whole time. But she didn't know. But this is how energy works, and we're unaware of this. So imagine if you have this tool in your back pocket, like, oh my God. So this is just a little over the top. This also correlates to your home, to other family members, in your job. This correlates to everything in your freaking life, like everything. And I think it's just so amazing once you understand it and you start applying it and you start seeing it. It's so cool. So in our class that we're gonna have, that I don't have a date for just yet, but I'm still working on the details, okay? This is gonna be a part of what's in there. I've also done a few other videos about Batsa, which is your natal chart. And again, I talk a lot about this cycle and how it correlates to the elements of your chart, of your life path, of the imprint that the universe gave you the moment you were born with these elements and energies, you know? So it's very interesting. I hope you learned a little bit more. And like I said, this year is about empowering, teaching, having people grow with me and understand, just so we can all have a better understanding of life and ourselves, and we can use it to be better and to grow. So with that, check out the website for more upcoming information, for any other courses and classes. I have a bunch of new services that are going to be on, so just be on the lookout. I got a lot of good stuff coming. Bye.